MMA Roadshow, episode number 377. My name is John Morgan. Cold coffee is with me, and once again, making me consume frosty beverages all on my own.
You know, well, to be fair, one, my buddy, you know him, Dr. Petrick, had his little political thing last night, and I was like, I'm not going to drink. And then towards the end, sitting around, like, it started getting to the point, like, they're starting to get the numbers, and so he actually won his primary first thing, so he's going to actually get to run for an assembly position. By that point, I was like, you know, people were like, we're sitting around just waiting, and they had, like, an open bar. You would have been gangbusters, and I was trying to be good the whole night, and then by the end of the night, it was like shots of chilled tequila and Heinekens. So then
I mean, if you're going to give in, give all the way in.
I know. I was like, fuck, the doomsday clock has now restarted. So today is day one. Yeah. But no, I don't mind. I mean, there's just more for you. But I don't miss it. But I'm glad I did it last night because there's something about tequila. I fucking love tequila. Granted, last time I got in a bar fight was a tequila night. But tequila's fun. But yeah, I just love that little tequila buzz.
Oh, you were playing with fire there. You were drinking tequila at a political rally, man.
Full of a bunch of, like, red-blooded, like, Republican whatever. Like, I was like, I'm not. I just don't even talk to me.
Nobody talk to me about Ukraine right now. I don't want to hear anybody talk to me about Ukraine right now. I'm just warning you guys. I'm just warning you guys.
We're trying to keep this cool here. Don't bring it up.
Oh man.
But it was fun. But yeah, so while you are drinking, it hasn't even been. I guess it has been 12 hours since. So, but whatever. I'm having my coffee here.
I'm having some award-winning Pabst Blue Ribbon. So
yes, you are.
At least you can expect one of us to have a frosty beverage in hand.
Yes.
This used to be the podcast where we got bad. Like, we've had some really bad episodes.
I mean, it will happen again.
It will happen again.
Just
during training camp. During training camp. All right, well,
I don't even
fair
like
enough.
calling it training camp because then I feel like I have to fight. Just during training.
Progress going good? Still hanging in there?
Yeah, and I just feel beat up a little bit, you know, just feeling like the pains of, like, I'm not, like, of just, like, it'd be one thing if it was, like, maybe even, like, every other day I'd feel like I'd have a day to let my body, like, recuperate. I think it's just some of the days, the immediate day after, I'm just, like, feeling like death. Just sort of lingers. But, I mean, I am feeling better. Overall, I'm feeling better.
Well, as fellow fighters like yourself have learned over time, it's important to listen to your body. And if it's necessary to take a day off, recovery days are part of the training camp as well. As you know from talking to your fellow fighters week in and week out, we understand these things.
It was like the other day, I don't know if you saw it, Eric Nixick from Extreme went live. And it had, like, I think it was one of the pro classes, because as he's going through the room, you're seeing, like, everybody and their brother there.
Right.
It was so crowded. It was awesome. I was like, dude, good for Extreme, man. They're, like, killing it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, second, I was like, dude, why didn't I get the invite, you know, to come hang out with my fellow fighters? No, seriously, though. But it is interesting. Like, it was watching it. Like, I remember one day I was there to I was shooting. What was I shooting? Somebody was working out or something for some reason. Oh, yeah. It was for Eagle FC when I was doing some B-roll. I remember that day thinking, like, man, I got to watch it. I'm going to get hurt, like, tripping over somebody's feet or something. This was, like, twice as many people. Like, when you watch it, when I looked at it yesterday, I was like, holy cow, like, that's just a mass of bodies. But something interesting that he said that I actually asked him because I wasn't quite clear, because I'm wondering what's going to happen when we get to that part in this training class. One of the things they said, they're like, guys, you're all here. We asked you for a few things that you bring. You bring your shin pads, you bring your gloves, and you bring your tape and, like, maybe like your mouth guard or something like that. He's like, if you ain't got shin guards, you ain't got whatever, what are you going to do here? So he's like getting on the case. I was like, damn, like he's telling him. But then I was like, tape. What is the tape for? So I asked Eric, I was like, I see one of the things you guys are stressing on asking for is tape. And he said what it is, and because I asked him, I was like, is this just because gloves get let done, or is there another reason? And I thought it was maybe the other reason, and he clarified. He said the tape is so that the Velcro, everything that's under, he's like, we don't want that shit scraping somebody's eyes out or doing whatever.
Right.
So they actually have them tape that over.
Yeah, you got to cover that up.
Cover that up, you know. So I was like, that's kind of what I thought, but I wasn't quite sure. But I didn't realize how big of a focus that they make that be going on one of their pro practices? So
something that most people probably never think
that
about.
you never think
but
about.
that could cause
Drop a fight.
Yeah.
Like,
lose
what
a
if you're
fight.
rolling with somebody and you get caught by the end of a glove and then you're out, that you can't fight in 2 weeks or a week or something? I was like, dude, that's so smart. But it was like something so simple that I never caught. But I've never really. A lot of times when you go and you happen to drop by a place where pro practice is happening, it's either already going on,
Right.
or it's something that you don't stress. I think maybe because this class was so big, they had an influx of newer people coming. And this was one of the days where like, well, hey guys, there's a few ground rules that we're going to ask you for. Bless this. So it was kind of cool to see that.
Cool.
And I was glad that Eric explained that. I was like, it's something simple, but dude, yeah, I mean, again, it goes back. I don't understand why Eric didn't give me the call. But I'm glad that he did.
Yeah, he didn't want you in there
Give me
hurting
another week.
anybody.
He didn't want me hurting people. They're like, bro, no Kimbo Slice yet. We got guys that need to fight. We don't want anybody's fight out. Actually, he's like, we don't want anybody to murder this fat old dude.
We don't know if the waiver takes, if it covers everything that happens in pro practice. So, well, shout out to your work at Train Alta and everybody over there putting in the work.
Good people, man. Good people.
Listen, man, it's a busy card this week, a good card down in Austin, Texas. Neither one of us are going to be there for it, but we will talk about that. But I feel like the buzz is still a little bit over last week, man. I feel like people are still talking about this fallout from UFC 275, which is kind of fun. You and I got to watch it together. That's not something we do very often. Heck, even when we're working together, we're working apart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Back when we used to work for that unnamed outlet at one point in time.
That up and coming over the hill outlet.
Up and coming place.
I was right there. I did want to say I was right about the broken orbital.
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted. Now, you saw it right there. And you're like, gotta be
there was
broken
just
orbital.
Something so bad about that, but I didn't realize. Well,
hey, we're talking about Tyler Santos, of course.
Wait, but because I've heard varying dates of how long that takes to heal. Like, what are you hearing that would take? Because somebody was like, oh, well, we immediately got to start going. Because somebody was saying, I thought they were saying 6 to 8 months. Maybe that's something longer on that kind of thing. I don't mean that you would think that I would almost just think a year for sure, but I don't know.
I don't think it's that long, but what I do think is that you got to be careful. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, you're going to have like, I think you have to go like a month or something without like doing anything, like no contact at all. But, I don't think that then like a month you just go start sparring again or something like that.
Well, it's just kind of thinking like, everybody was like, oh, that was so good. Rematch. And it's like, well, you can't even have that you can't even have that conversation right now until you have a good idea of what that sort of, and who knows if healing is the same for every particular person. If one person's bone structure in their face heals maybe different than another, but that certainly puts that whole, there's, obviously, people that were like, man, I still think the fight should have went this way, and it was this, was Valentina lucky to get out of there? And a lot of people are just saying, well, the best way to figure that out was just run it back. Well, that's not even an option now.
I agree.
And you can't slow the division
I
down.
think it's good. But here's what I would say is I think you could say to Talia, like, listen, first of all, I thought this was great because I did it in my own rankings, and I was glad to see that other people did as well. Talia in the official UFC rankings actually moved up 2 spots despite the loss. I mean, that's not something you see very often, right? Where somebody goes up in the rankings despite suffering a setback.
What was she ranked before?
She was ranked at number 4, and she went to number 2. So it's still
awesome.
It's still Caitlin Chukagian is number 1, Tyler Santos now number 2, Lauren Murphy, and Jessica Andrade. And I'll be honest, that's exactly how I turned my rankings in as well. And I think it's well deserved that she moved up. So I thought it was so cool that the whole panel rewarded her for that because that's somebody that did push Shevchenko. And I will say, and again, I had 2, 4, and 5. We talked about this on the and a half episode. We talked about I had 2, 4, and 5 for Shevchenko, so I did score the fight for her. But 2 was close, and I know a lot of people are had those first 3 for Talia. I will say that while she was on top in that round, you'll remember she did get stood up in that round. So if you're getting stood up from a dominant position, that shows you how little activity you're actually getting done. That's control. That's not damage. That's not points being scored. Shevchenko was landing some pretty decent shots off of her back. Now, it's rare. It has happened, but it's incredibly rare to like knock somebody out from your back. So, I mean, it's not like these are the most damaging blows ever, but they are there. And she was staying busy, and she did have a couple submission attempts as well. I thought she was going to have the go-go plata there for a second, which was crazy. So, to me, I was comfortable giving Shevchenko that round, but I do stand in full support of the rematch just because rounds 4 and 5, you can't tell me that broken orbital did not have an impact on what happened in there. And I want to give credit to Valentina Shevchenko. She gutted out a way. She found a way to, in a difficult position, battle out and win those last 2 rounds clearly. But you could see the pain on Talia Santos' face, which led you to call for that you felt it was probably a broken orbital, and you were spot on. And I just don't think that you can say that broken orbital did not have a significant impact on what happened in 4 and 5.
For anybody to say that didn't, I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, you're so severely altered at that point. And she even said she saw multiple valves at that time, and she just hit the one in the middle. But to think that, all right, your vision's so blurry that you're seeing like that, and you're not seeing anything come from the other side, and then to think that you still had 10 minutes or whatever to go in this fight.
Not 10 minutes of
ridiculous.
Not 10 minutes of you were 10 minutes on a bicycle you had to ride or something like that.
And I thought she did a fantastic job dealing with that. I mean, anybody could fight through that and still put it to where it looked like she was putting Val in some real danger. I mean, credit to her. It's funny, I was just reading one of the things because she's supposed to have surgery. By this point, I'm sure she's had the surgery already to get that done. You can't just hop on a plane.
That's a good question.
So that's the kind of thing, does she fly home and then do it?
Or does she stay in Singapore and do it?
Or stay there?
You know what? I didn't check on that. Because I know if you have
to leave. I wouldn't want to stay there because how could you afford to stay there?
Okay. Well, I'm assuming the UFC would cover it if it was medical, but yeah, it's so expensive. But how much would they give you for a per diem every day?
Because even then, but if it's broken, it's not like you want to get on the plane if they're saying you can't fly after the surgery because does that mean you can do that before you get the surgery?
That's a good question.
Or is that still extremely painful that you can't do it beforehand? Because it's with the pressure or something, and it just I don't know what.
I know if you have sinus cavity issues, you can't. So
I was reading online. They said they tell you not even blow your nose for weeks, or maybe it's days or something.
That's crazy. So here's what I say. I think you're right about that. I think the time may be enough that she's out that maybe you can't do an immediate rematch, but I still think you could say, when you're ready, you get to go. That doesn't mean that Valentina has to wait on you.
Yeah.
But you are still a number one contender.
Yeah, not like that she dropped down and it's like, okay, work yourself back up through 3 or 4 fights.
I don't think she needs to win another fight. I think she should get a shot when she's ready again.
Yeah. I mean, if something happens and it's going to be where she's going to be out, months and months and months. Say it's even 6 months or something. Maybe she wants to let it even come closer to fully heal. I read different things online of what the full time frame of how it is to fully get back to that point. Maybe she wants a pickup fight. Maybe she doesn't want to go right back in there at the top of the level. I mean, that does put risk that there is the possibility of losing. But man, if she fights like how she fought against Valentina, I mean, I'm pretty confident she's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But coming in after a serious injury like this, I mean, maybe not the worst of all injuries, but it is a very serious injury. Maybe, with 6 months time off, maybe she wants a pickup fight, but I'm with you as well. I wouldn't be opposed if they're just just when you're ready, we'll see where Val's at, and we'll make it happen if it makes sense, I mean.
So here's to me where it gets interesting, right? You got the Miesha Tate, she was already kind of angling at that, right? And Miesha, of course, is angling for a title shot as well, but, Valentina kind of mentioned that as an opportunity. She's facing Lauren Murphy. Excuse me, not Lauren Murphy. Who was she fighting scheduled up? No, it is Lauren Murphy. That's right. Okay, yeah, Lauren Murphy. So she's got that fight with Lauren Murphy. That's a big one. Now you got Mano Figueroa, who's fighting Jessica Andrade as well, which it was supposed to be Caitlin Chookagian. And I thought at least with Caitlin Chookagian, if Caitlin Chookagian won, I think Caitlin herself has said, I get it. I don't necessarily, I don't, I know. And it's sad to hear her say it, but she does say it that, I know that nobody wants me to fight for the belt right now, so I'll just keep fighting. But now you've got a couple of options available, and then I think they all could jump in Talia Santos' way. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out with all this. There's definitely options. I think Talia should get a chance to get back in there when she wins. I did want to ask you, too, I don't want to say that Valentina's – so when we did the and a half episode this past week, it was immediately after the fights, right? Because you were going to have to do some work, so I was like, let's do this quickly. So we talked about it. We didn't get to watch the post-fight interviews at that point. So I've gone back afterwards and watched it. I wonder if anybody is – because I didn't necessarily hear Valentina saying, my God, that was the toughest challenge I've had. Credit to Talia. Right. Look forward to doing it again. You know what I mean? It was just yeah, I did what I had to do to win
another day at the office.
Yeah, it's I don't. Yeah. Do you think it was a little bit off-putting to people? Maybe
it was off-putting to me because I was come on. Like, I get it if somebody didn't really watch what you're doing, and they're like, okay, they just look and they say, okay, win, loss, depending on what judges' scorecards. Some made it look more impressive than others, but I was kind of put off because I was like, dude, you were up against the ropes, and I can see where I even said before the very end, I was like, we might see the belt change hands. So that's how confident I thought that Tyler gave her every bit of a run for her money. So for her to go in and just be like, oh, well, and it's like, dude,
and
really?
I don't see that's. I
was a little put off by it. I still love Valentina, but I was a little put off by it.
Valentina. I think she's. I say it all the time. I think she's pound for pound number one, and I think she's awesome. I mean, she does media in 4 different languages. You know what I mean? She's entertaining. She's great. So I love all that thing.
That scene afterwards where she was out there talking to her to Thailand and the team, and she was speaking in Spanish or whatever. I was like, what a stud, man! She's so cool.
I'm not trying to pick on her, but it was a little bit off-putting to me too, where I was just like, huh.
Like it just.
You didn't notice like the broken orbital from the clash of heads, like maybe what I mean? Like even just to address that, to be like, look, because it's not her fault, she didn't do it on purpose. So, but it would have been easy to say, like, look, this was I got pushed to the limit, and look, I hate to see that injury that she suffered. I know that must have been difficult for her.
Yeah.
Clearly, it wasn't it wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing her down the road again sometime. She certainly, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't know, Again, I don't want to nitpick Valentina. She's an all-time great, future Hall of Famer, greatest of all time. But it was just a little bit like, you're not going to act like you got pushed to your limit there?
It's just weird because that was one of the times we've finally seen her really, really challenge where it felt like, wow, Valentina has to win this. Mm-hmm. Instead of, most fights where it's like, oh, Valentina, just don't mess up and don't lose it, because it's like watching, you're like, oh, it's already in the bag. This one was like, wow, for us watching, it felt like it was like the toughest to date that I can remember seeing her have to fight to win.
Yeah.
And for her to not acknowledge that or not see that or feel that herself was just a little like,
yeah,
really?
It's like, I just had to do what I had to do.
I just had to show up. I just had to show up and be me, you know.
I will say I did speak to somebody that was at the PI during some of her sessions, and did see the injury that she was talking about. So if anybody is wondering, like, I mean, not that she would make things up, like she's never done it before, but she kind of talked about, well, I didn't dance because I had this injury, and some people might be like, really? I heard that she did come in there kind of injured, so I'll at least give that story credit. All right, let's talk about the main event, because I see a lot of discussion about this too, because I do support the rematch here in the co-main event. I don't know if I support the rematch in the main event. A lot of people saying let's run this back. I don't know, man. What's your thought on that? Because look, this was an incredibly entertaining fight, no question about it. It was a fun fight.
Yeah.
I have seen some, and I have seen some critics of I mean, the guys both kind of criticized themselves and said they thought they fought kind of sloppy or whatever. And there were some. But, I mean, that doesn't mean a fight's not entertaining. I mean, like, one of the greatest, most entertaining fights of all time is Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner, and it ain't exactly like the most technical striking you've ever seen in your life, right? So
definition of a slobber knocker.
That's it, man. So to me, if you've got a couple of wild exchanges, a couple non-technical, I'm okay with that. Like, that's still entertaining. So I'm not going to criticize that. But I just wonder, like, I know when I spoke to Glover Teixeira ahead of the fight, he was like, I want to fight in Madison Square Garden. That is imperative to me. Before I hang it up, I want to fight in Madison Square Garden. And I hope he'll be ready to go. It looks like that's happening around November again. That's 5 months from now. I believe that should be time to recover. And so hopefully he's okay. I think you definitely put him on there. I mean, that's what he wants to do. You do it for him. He's a legend of the sport. He's a draw, and you put him on there. But I don't know that you necessarily run it back right away. I mean, granted, he was less than 30 seconds away from walking out of there with his title. But I don't know. If you know that it could potentially be his last matchup, I don't think the UFC is going to be real keen on giving him that, right? Knowing how close he is to retirement, it just doesn't do anybody any good, right, when you win the belt and quit and walk away, right? Because then the next person that comes in now, it's like, oh, well, you're not really the champion. Think how long it took to build back up middleweight whenever GSP and, Bisping walked away. And I think it causes more problems. And so while I'd certainly sign up to see him again, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, and I'm not saying that, like, if they did it, I'd be like, what an outrage. I guess what I'm saying is I just can't see the UFC signing off on that, knowing that, like, he's trying to get it back, but we know he's gonna walk away if he gets it. That seems like they're setting themselves up for potential, again, kind of devaluing the belt, so to speak.
Yeah, but I guess it gives them also a reason. They love title fights. They love the fact when they can throw him on a card. So I guess if they know that he did get the belt back, they know that, hey, guys, we get to have another title fight sooner than we thought we would have, if he did walk away. I do like the idea of giving him the opportunity to have a big fight for his last fight, if that is going to be the last fight. That's me just out of love for Glover. I'd love for him to have that opportunity because he's such a nice dude. But on the flip side, if I take that out of the equation, if I take my own personal feelings and my likings of that fighter, and I just think of, all right, hey, here's a guy that won the light heavyweight belt, lost it on his first defense, does not have a big, long reign of defenses where you're like, oh, man, we got to give him a chance to get it back. He's not really owed it, while he was, in all actuality, winning that fight for most of the fight. That happens all the damn time. Where somebody's winning the
fight until you weren't.
Until you're not. Until you wake up on the mat. Yep. So in that sense, when I take my personal feelings out of it, I don't think that he's owed for it, but I would love to see if it is going to be his last fight that he gets everything that he wants. He might appreciate having that fight there, say if that is the location, just to have that fight. But I don't feel the need that we have to run it right back. I think that sets a bad precedent for the belts. There's nothing that says every belt that you lose to the champion needs to have an immediate rematch.
Right.
I think it's when the belt holder has just having such a long reign, a powerful reign, and then you're just like, oh, maybe this was just a bad day. Let's just make sure.
Yeah.
And I feel like then you're like, okay, then it's because that champ has given you this. I love Glover, and like I said, if you take personal effect out of it,
I'd love to see it. Love to see it. Nothing. But how cool would it be for him to get revenge, take the belt, hoist it in the air, and say, "Thank you, it's been amazing." Here you go, Yuri. You can fight somebody else for this. That's the weird part. Like, the statement would be awesome. Like, the final scene in the Glover Teixeira movie would be awesome because he revenges the fight that he lost, and maybe he gets the submission this time around if we're writing the movie. You know what I mean? It's him that gets out of a bad spot.
Because Yuri will fight differently. Like, to think that fight will play exactly out the same is going to be completely different.
Yep.
I think Yuri had a lot of respect for him, but he felt everything. But he also realized, wow, I thought I could go in there and manhandle this old dude. That was not the case. There was a lot of great exchanges where Glover had great shots on him. So I think he'll have to go back, have a little moment in the samurai pool with geishas all around him, and he's, in his martial arts villa, and really readdress it. So, that fight would be different, and maybe it could be a completely different outcome where maybe he's just getting his butt handed to him, and then he comes to submission. But I just think that fight's going to be very, very different. But again, I just don't feel that it's owed.
I don't either.
But I do feel that, man, this monster that we thought was coming in and was going to possibly annihilate the old guy is not the monster that we thought he was.
He wasn't, but he did find a way to win. And I do think this guy can be a problem. Like, I do think there's a possibility that he could reign for a while. Now, I do think there's some tough matchups for him. Ankalaev is one that stands out to me as one of the toughest matchups for anybody in the division. That dude's an absolute monster. There's going to be some challenges for him. I mean, look, Jan clips you.
Yep.
It's going to hurt.
Polish power. And he's got good ground skills as well. He's got strong wrestling. He's got good power and he's got strong wrestling.
But I do think Yuri has the capability. His career record is phenomenal. Again, as we kind of said, maybe there's some figures on there that you go, but he was. When you're finding people that you're better than and you're getting rid of them in the first round, you know what I mean? That's all you can do. If you're better, you got to hear him. So I do think there's a possibility that he could run off some wins here. But, again, it's tough. How about that scene when he went back home, man? How cool was that?
Oh, that was really cool.
I love that, man. I love that.
I wish if they had some numbers because it looked like it was easily like 10,000 more.
Crazy,
I don't know.
Man.
Who knows how the camera made it look, but regardless, that was completely cool.
Yeah.
How cool was that scene? I love it, because we always question sometimes how well does MMA fit in this market and some of these overseas markets. if there's not a better indicator of what it is and what it means to the people than what you saw there in that plaza to welcome him, I think that's a good answer of what they think about MMA over there.
It's so cool because in countries like, and that's what I love about it. I mean, look, not that I don't cheer for American fighters. Of course I do, man. I mean, I obviously like great fighters, but I just want great fighters to do great things. But it's so cool when it's somebody from a country that has never had that before. You know what I mean? Because it's just they get to go stand in front of their people and be this representative of like, bro, you can do this. You know what I mean? Like if you want to dream, you can do this. And I just think that's the great thing about fight sport. You know, it really is. I think more than maybe other sports out there, like you really can. Like if you if you believe in yourself, and you obviously it takes training and you got to have some gifts, and it's not like anybody like can do it. But I'm just saying, like there aren't the barriers to entry in like that there are in certain other sports. You know what I mean? It's like if you see that and you see somebody that looks like you, that talks like you, that came from where you came from, and you see him, it just motivates you to go do that. So I love seeing these other countries kind of get that little taste of that, man.
It was cool.
That scene was super cool.
Very cool.
All right, well, this week the UFC is in Austin. We'll talk about that card a little bit. I did want to ask you a couple of things real quick. Charles Oliveira, seems like he's keep pushing for this Conor McGregor fight. Talk about does that rub you the wrong way a little bit too? I mean, can you blame the man for just trying to take the most lucrative fight available? You know,
is he trying to make that? Is he pushing for that to be like the title fight?
I think he's just pushing. Well, that's a good question because I don't know if he's pushing for it to be the title fight.
Because I haven't really paid too much attention. I did see some of the chirping, but I was just like, oh, it's just chirping.
Yeah.
But then I was like, man, I'd be more upset if he was like, bro, you're trying to make that the title fight. You're giving Conor everything that he wants, and maybe he would happen. You know, if the UFC's like, you're right. We didn't think about that. We're gonna make you and Conor actually fight for it.
Come on,
that
man.
would be super bad.
You're right. You know what? And I should have clarified that too because I've just seen him pushing for the fight. I didn't think about whether it's for the title or not. Because if it's just pushing for the fight, I guess I'm okay with it. Like you want to get money, you're trying to get paid.
Yeah.
But if you're pushing for that and you want it for the belt, like come on, man.
Yeah. I mean, he's supposed to. I mean, it was supposed to be promised him that his next fight was going to be for the belt, right? So the fact that he's calling for like Conor's like, Conor's just been chomping at the bit to come back for a title shot. If there was ever a possibility, I think especially where, if there was ever a moment where it wouldn't be as absolutely just fucking ridiculous that Conor comes back and gets a title shot, it would be in a weird situation like this where the champ was stripped because he didn't make weight, so nobody has the belt right now and it's vacant. But this guy is supposed to be the one that's going to be fighting for it. If Dana's like, dude, we've been trying to get Conor back, we can't, whatever. I mean, I guess it's the best of a possible option of having Conor just come back and fight, if it is actually for something. But it is very, very ridiculous.
And it's so funny because we've talked about it here before. I can totally see Dana selling it exactly as you said. Look, it's Conor McGregor. He's one of the greatest in the history of the sport. He's back. I can see him selling it. But I feel like that's one where I would not be able to help myself at the press conference if we were, let's say a pre-fight press conference or something, to just be giving him the Frank Mir face or something really, come on, man.
Yeah.
And look, man, I'm not trying to hate on Conor McGregor. I'm not, man. We had so much fun covering Conor's career, and I cannot deny he's the biggest star in the history of the sport, and I cannot deny that the web traffic would be through the roof, and I cannot deny, it's good financially for the sport, right? But, sometimes there just has to be a limit, right? Where you're like, okay, we know this is going to sell 1 million pay-per-views, but come on.
Yeah. I think we've had that discussion over and over. We're like, come on, there's no way this would happen. There's no way. And it's happened. I feel like we shouldn't even just say it because I just feel like the universe is like, y'all still doubt me? You still doubt me that I will make random shit happen? And again, if time's ticking for everybody. I mean, there is a day where Conor's going to finally stop wanting to come back. Right. If this is the kind of thing that does get him back in, I don't think he's long for it. I mean, he can go and have fun and do these little random Floyd Mayweather boxing events and make millions and millions for guys that are a lot less challenging, as opposed to actually try to come back in and fight real guys at the top of the level, So if there's a possibility he could do it, of course I'm going to be like, whatever, It's just interesting because while guys have the belt, when they legit have the belt and Conor's always chirping, a lot of them don't say his name. They don't say his name. They're like, no, you're not even fighting right now. You're not even fighting. Get back in here, work your way back up, and then maybe. But yeah, I mean, that fight would be good. But, there's other guys in line. There's other guys in line. But now we have a case like this where it's like, maybe I can ask for it and maybe it makes sense. It's just weird I would think it would be weird for a current belt holder knowing that he just had to fight his way and you got guys chomping at the bit to say, I'm just going to skirt all these guys and go for this money fight. If there's never an opportunity where shit's already out the window, shit's already weird, like the fact that we don't have a belt holder because a guy couldn't make weight because of this weird scale thing, maybe the UFC will feel bad and be like, bro, that was a weird situation. Our bad. How do we make that right? He's like, well, I want Conor. And they're like,
all right.
Okay, because, we want Conor too.
Now, Charles, one thing. What do we tell Dustin? Please tell me what do we like? You know what I mean? Charles, help me figure this out. I want to make this happen for you. I want to make this fight happen for you. What do we tell Dustin?
Well, tell Dustin he's got first dibs on the winner. He wants that fight with Conor. Conor and him need to figure that beef out as well. And and regardless, it's best of both worlds for Dustin. If that was a guaranteed, you get the winner. Like, we're gonna do this crazy thing.
You get to come cage side. You get to watch.
But we'll give you the winner, Then it'd be something, because if Conor's like, no, blah blah blah, then it makes him look like a bitch.
All right. You're doing okay, Charles. You've done well there. We've done well there. All right, now what do we tell Islam?
They're like, he doesn't really understand this anyway.
You're terrible. Charles is like, who? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Who's this guy?
Islam.
He's nobody. He needs to fight a couple more times. But you say Conor can come right back in. He hasn't fought in how many years?
So crazy. You mentioned Floyd Mayweather. You gonna watch the next boxing?
No.
I'm torn on it, man.
I mean, if because I'm sure there's a cost involved to watch it.
Oh, it's going to be pay-per-view.
I mean, if it's not, of course. If I didn't have to come out of pocket to watch it, absolutely, I would love to watch Floyd. I love Floyd.
I'll watch it with somebody else's money.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, Floyd is spectacular. I mean, again, anybody that gets to like that level, that is just. It's like when you have a great band that, you're like, oh, they're maybe not as good as they were, but they're only going to be touring for so long.
Right.
If you get an opportunity to watch them fight, watch them fight. Would we rather see Floyd fight somebody that's actually, a high-level guy that's really going to challenge him? I mean, Floyd's given us a lot of those in the past. So, I mean, if this is how we get to watch him fight, yeah, I'm very, very interested in watching it. But am I going to come out of pocket for this, like, sideshow?
That's what I'm torn on, because like they need people to pay, and I kind of feel the same way. Like, they had a press conference here the other night. They announced it. They had this great promo video for it, and I thought the same thing. Like, if I get a chance to watch Floyd Mayweather do his thing,
yeah,
I want to do it, man. You know what I mean? Like, he's only going to be around for, a little bit longer. Who knows? Maybe he'll keep doing this forever. But he is a master of his craft, and it's cool to watch it. But if you want me to pay like $60 of my money for it, you know what I mean? If you want me to pay $60 of somebody else's money,
yeah,
all right, fine. You know what I mean? But
for a fight with no ramifications.
That's no ramifications whatsoever. And they'll probably make a rule where there's not even a winner or loser if it goes to a decision,
well,
right?
It's an exhibition, right?
Exactly. So it's just.
I mean, like, it's not his record's not going to be tainted. But there is something. I mean, his fight when he opens up his gym. And always allowed us in the past for different ones to watch him training. It's so badass.
So cool.
It's so amazing.
That's as fun as the fight. Wow. Just watching him. Just his open workouts are as fun as the fight.
It's funner. I mean, like, because you see the whole entourage around, but his work process as he's working the bags and when he just makes it so at ease. But then you see all this shit that you don't ever get to see in the fight because the guy never draws it out of him.
Even just jumping rope.
It's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. Like, I would love to be able to see one of those again because that was always really cool. It was always just a crazy hassle, but it was so amazing watching because you're literally watching one of the best guys that's ever done that sort of thing do it. And again, to this exhibition, who knows what this other guy is. I mean, if they spin it enough ways, we'll go in there with some sort of anticipation, like maybe he's going to touch him a couple times. But we all realize, too, a lot of these guys, and especially the guy at Floyd, I mean, they know how to pick their people. They'll pick the right people. I'm sure that, the guy's going to present some challenges. But whatever. I mean, I'd be more than happy to watch it. I'm just not going to pay to do it.
That's just what I wonder is how Ryzen makes money off this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I just don't get it, man. Like, you got to pay Floyd a chunk of money, and then you got to turn around and try to convince people to want to buy it for $60, and I just don't know how you do that, man. Like,
but also, dude, what the thing about that is they're not it doesn't depend on just this market.
That's true.
It's one thing where it's a Floyd fight and say if it's a pay-per-view here on Showtime or whatever, they need the American market, and then they just hope somebody else outside in another country does it. This has a huge other base of audience that's going to be interested in this. So it takes a lot of the pressure of just an American audience reaching in their pockets and get it. They have a huge base over in Japan and other areas where they're going to be like, okay, well, we want to watch our guys.
Yeah.
They understand also the benefit of, you know, even if you watch like anime and a lot of this other stuff, the underdog role, that the guy that's working his way in his storyline, fighting the champion, the unbeatable guy, that's probably 80% of a lot of anime out there,
Right.
the upcoming
It's
guy.
true.
So this is a real life opportunity for them to watch somebody that's on the way up, or somebody that's, the underdog fighting the unbeatable boss level in a game or whatever. So there's going to be a lot of people that buy into it. There's a lot of people that bought in all the other ones as well, So while they might struggle to reach us because we're like, oh man, we've seen the same thing over and over and over, you're going to have a lot of people overseas that are like, dude, we never get an opportunity to see this happen.
It's true.
They're like, okay. And plus, I mean, I don't know how many pay-per-views they're reaching in their pockets. They're not getting asked to reach into their pockets every week, every month.
True. If you do
for
sign
an event
well,
or so.
and if you sign broadcast deals, if you sign
Yeah.
maybe you just sign.
They might have broadcast
So
deals.
see, you
over
might
there.
have exactly. You might sign things where you don't need a pay per view.
Right.
At that point, like if you can get networks from around the world to pay you for it, like
Right.
I get that.
Then this is just all gravy.
I get that model. The pay per view model just seems tough, man. It just
Yeah.
seems really tough. But again, I'm in. It's hard. It's hard to pay money for a fight that doesn't really mean
that doesn't
anything.
mean anything.
Man. What about Greg Hardy to BKFC? Does that excite you at all?
I mean, I'm not one of these people that's like I'm going to chastise this guy for the rest of his life.
I agree.
I'm glad he's always nice to me. Was always fine. I know a lot of people that he walks in the room for some reason I just can't stop fucking cringing. That's not me.
Right.
I'm interested to see how he does in there.
I actually am too.
He's got great power. It's going to be very, very different for him. And if he doesn't have good footwork, well, it's not like the guys he's going in there are straight up boxers as well. I mean, who knows?
He's
Just
big
so
and
big.
athletic,
He's
man.
so quick. He's so whatever. And if he does great, good for him. I mean, maybe that was the right platform for him.
I think he's going to do better there.
He could.
I think he's going to do better there.
I certainly wouldn't want to be across the ring with him, no gloves. Like, just he's a monster, So I mean, yeah, I'm interested to see it just because, like you said, it might be the best platform for him. But I'm just glad he's working. I'm glad anybody's working. I mean, he's never did anything to me, so I have no reason to hate on him and do whatever. So yeah, if it becomes his home and they're willing to take a chance on him. We always knew he had talent. We always knew that he had possibilities to do great things. He just ran into some tough competition, and
UFC is just
the
a tough
UFC
place.
is the toughest level to be.
Tough place to learn.
And it kind of
tough
that's
place
it.
to learn.
He was learning on the job, and we've seen some people that have been able to do that. Typically those are in the lesser weight classes where maybe you're not taking the heavy damage that a lot of the bigger guys in the bigger weight classes. Like to learn the ropes at a heavyweight class when you know that any fight can end in a moment, in the bigger classes. And I think that could even, I wouldn't want to even at like a middleweight to try to learn the ropes at that level. I mean, because most of the middleweights were probably light heavyweights, they're able to kind of get down, or bigger that are able to kind of get down. But good for him. I mean, if it works out, I think it would be good. I'm glad he's able to get his thing. I mean, I understand why that some people will always have issues with him, but I don't understand the hate to where you just like you
can never have a second chance.
You can never have another chance.
I get it, and we've talked about it before during his career. Like I'm the same way. Like he's always been great to us, and polite, respectful, and behind the scenes, hardworking, humble. Like dude, he did some dumb shit in his life. There's no question about it. But like I don't know. I mean, like I guess like. There's certain things that you don't come back from, you know what I mean? But I don't know, man. I don't know. It's hard to just say for the rest of someone's life they don't get a chance to earn a living. They don't get a chance to have positives anymore.
It's tough. It's tough to. I mean, I think we're supposed to take people for face value when you meet them. How they carry themselves. You're right. There's maybe some things, and I mean there are some things that you can't ever really erase from, but. When somebody presents themselves to you and all those interactions, you're taking that person for how they are at that particular moment. And a lot of that takes mistakes and things that you do, and then you correct them, and then you move forward and you try to live your best life. And then in those interactions, you're seeing that person have their best life, and they give you no reason to hate them. I would hate for somebody to always hold against all the stupid shit that I did in my life, So
he's a completely different human being, man.
Yeah. So
completely different.
But no, good for him. I hope he thrives. I mean, BKFC needs some studs.
Bro, look at the stuff they're doing, man.
Yeah.
MVP versus Mike Perry.
That is bonkers.
I talked to MVP earlier this week, and he had the greatest quote. He was like, I was like, dude, what is it? I was like, you guys shocked the world. Like, nobody saw this coming.
Nobody saw that coming.
He was like, man, it's the fight that nobody knew they needed. He's like, and once we announced it, like, now and I'm in. I think it's a tough assignment for Mike Perry, man. I think it's a tough assignment. Respect to him for taking it, because Michael Page, man. Yeah,
that's that. I'm making a dollar sign. If
get paid.
He's getting that money. He's I mean, outside of just having some serious raw power with his hands, I think he does have good movement. He has got good head movement. He's much more of, when he moves around, he's much more of, I think, has much more boxing look to him than Page.
Mm-hmm.
Page is not going to have the time to sit back and just like throw those strikes, throw those legs, use that length, I mean, if Mike just comes in and tries to bulldog him and gets him up close, it's going to be rough for Mike. But if Michael Page, being who he is, can keep that distance, it's a super tough challenge. But you're taking half of the weapons away from Page going in there.
Yeah, taking half the weapons away, but I feel like, the speed is going to be on his side.
Right? But also too, I mean, Perry's been in there. Perry knows what to expect in one of these fights. I think there's going to be that initial moment of MVP where he's going to be like, wow, this is sort of different and surreal, and then in those tiny moments, if something happens and he lets his guard down, or if Mike catches him with something, Mike's got the power to kind of leave him a little iffy for a little bit, and Mike's got great hand speed as well, man. If he can lay some hands on him, I think he could really make a good run on this. And I mean, this is the kind of fight that, no matter what people maybe say where Mike's career is right now for him, that's the kind of fight that puts him back on the radar for being like a badass.
He's another one that this is the perfect fit for him. This is the perfect organization for him to be in.
It really, really is.
What reports out today is Abit Magomedsharipov retiring. Does that do anything for you?
I did not see that.
Yeah, I think. Oh, you know what? You've been busy editing media day stuff. Yeah, but a report came out that he's elected to call it quits. I guess I'm bummed, but I see a lot of people kind of the emotion stirred. I guess just the writing's been on the wall for a while. I guess I half expect it's. I'm extremely disappointed because I feel like that guy was destined for some great things, and we didn't see it all the way through. But I can't say that I'm necessarily shocked by it happening. It seemed like the writing's been on the wall for a while that he just wasn't going to come back. And by the way, if he is retiring in order to be a doctor, which I saw at one point earlier this year, holy hell! If that's the truth, much respect to that man.
I had no idea that he even went to school, or even
I don't know if he's just starting school now. Like.
Oh, okay, well then that may be something, because I never heard of those aspirations. But good for him. But no, I'll have to read more. I mean, that's a guy that I know for a long time we were like, this is a guy that has possibilities of maybe becoming a champ someday, And then that just sort of had a hard time getting booked, and then I think he had a bunch of injury problems and stuff like that. So, but no, I mean, wow. That's kind of crazy. I mean, but yeah, I think with a lot of guys that have been coming out of that region and area, it's tough to keep your name on top of everybody's list of the bad guys to kind of watch out for, because he's kind of been out of the picture. But good for him, man. If he's able to kind of walk away and he has something that he's excited to do, good for him. Good for him.
I just decided I was going to be a doctor one day. It's stop this.
It's so funny. My brother, who was a career military, retired out of the military, but he was like airborne, like Ranger, did all this other crazy shit, retires. I'm like, oh man, what are you going to do? And he's like, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to be a nurse. I was like, where did that come from? Where did that come from? So now he's a nurse and does this shit, so I'm just like, some days people will just throw you for a loop and you're just like, where did that come from? So, but good for him. Good for him, man. Good for him.
A lot of MMA this weekend. Of course, PFL is on Friday night, so if you want to check that out, 2022 PFL 4 is on Friday night in Atlanta. Clay Collard and Alex Martinez in the main event. Clay Collard has looked fantastic since going over there. Antonio Carlos Jr. and Brucey Soto in the co-main event. That's Shoeface, who got the 29-second win last time out there. Olivia Aubin-Mercier versus Arash Manfio is in there. Miles Price, Jeremy Stevens. So
it's a good card.
It's a good card. Got the debut of Josh Silveira, who I don't know if he'll be able to get another fight in or not. So I don't know if he's going to make himself playoff eligible, but at least we'll see, the kind of the prospect. Definitely worth watching there. It's a pretty good card. And again, I like the PFL product, man. I like the standings. I like the way it works. And it's pretty cool to see, after I got to see one earlier this year, kind of how it's like a little community, man. Like, they're a small organization, you know what I mean? But the fact that, like, everybody in your division fights on the same card, so you're all around the hotel that week, you're all around, it's always your weight class all around you. It's kind of funny to see it. I tell you, the one thing that was really crazy in talking to Shoeface is that, because right now it's him number 1 in the standings and his teammate Amari Akhmedov number 2 in the standings, fellow UFC veteran, and those guys are like primary training partners. And I'm like, so if you guys are like primary training partners, you're 1 and 2 in the division right now, have you stopped training with each other? And he's like, no, like, we're just like, he helps me, he gives me good rounds. Like, nah, we're still training together. I'm like, that's crazy. So he said, look, I hope that if we do have to fight each other, that it's in the finals. It's for the $1 million. He's like, I would never say no to an opportunity like that. He would never say no. You're not going to take an opportunity away from your teammate.
Yeah. That's tough.
I hate to suggest it, and I feel dirty for saying this. But if it was your teammate, and I think it's like $1 million if you win and like $100,000 if you lose, couldn't you be like,
split it?
What if we just go $550 a piece and see what happens? Would you do that, or would you be like,
if it was my boy, fuck yeah.
Yeah?
I wouldn't care. Especially if I already had that $1 million from the year before. Like, bro, I'm good.
And I hate saying that because, like, I'm not trying to throw out like conspiracy theory shit, but I mean, private business between guys, you know what I mean? Just like, we could just split
even
this.
then, I mean, just go in and but it doesn't even say you have to like half-ass it. Maybe you just go in with the understanding, like, bro, we're both gonna we're gonna give our all.
We're going all out.
We're gonna go all out. But hey, regardless of it is, I'm willing to. If I win, I'm willing to give you half, and if you win, are you willing? Drop a contract.
Let it all hang out, right? In some way, I mean,
it doesn't mean that you have to go. Yeah. You have to like fix it or whatever.
Let's go put on an exhibition or let's go. No, we're going to let it all hang out.
We're willing to split the pot between the two of us.
Isn't it kind of like what guys, like the people that are like against the win bonus in the UFC, right? They're like, oh, no, if we didn't have a win bonus, then we wouldn't have to worry about playing it safe. If they do make it to the finals and they train together on a daily basis, like they know each other, like maybe it ends up not being that great of a final, but if they're splitting the money and they don't care, maybe I just shouldn't even talk about it.
Well, I mean, especially, I'm
sure that's some
because I can see
I'm sure that's some kind of like illegal collusion or something.
I mean, it's only collusion if you're attempting to alter the fight, if you're attempting to do something. If you're just going in with like a agreement, like, okay, the two purses between, at least this is how my brain's working out, there's two purses involved, we're willing to fight, let's just be willing to split the money instead of, hey, the winner gets this amount and this gets this amount. How about we just agree to split the money 2 ways and then we still fight?
All right, now let's say it's your boy, right? It's your boy. It's your boy that you train with every single day.
Yeah.
And you whip his ass 6 ways to Sunday every single day in sparring. Do you still do it?
Well, it depends.
Like, if you know in your head, like, this dude does not have a chance against me. He's my best friend, and I love him.
When you start saying best friend, and I mean that's different. I mean, if it's just a guy that you train with, and you're like, dude, this is like my favorite dude to go hard with. Like we train with each other for the past year or two. It's different than, say, maybe a guy that you're like, I've known this dude for 10 or 12 years. I watched him enter this thing. We became best friends.
Right.
And I know his family. I know his wife. I know his kids. I know whatever. Then then it just depends on like your relationship and what you want to share with your friend. If it's just like, yeah, we're buddies, but I know you're okay. You're gonna be okay with the $100,000. I'm gonna be real good with this $1 million. Then maybe you do it. I mean. And if that's the kind of thing where if there was a possibility to do that sort of thing, and you're not willing to maybe humor that idea, maybe you're not really that close.
You're not really that good of a friend
as you think you are.
And then if you do it, you never mention a word publicly about it ever, right? Because the public would chastise you.
But I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm torn both ways. I mean, it's one thing if you're trying to keep a secret and people find out. Then they assume that
it's shady,
that you weren't above board, that you were doing something below the table, without the public eye. But if you just say, hey guys, this is how we're approaching it, I like this guy, I respect this guy. I think pay structure fucking sucks in this company, but we realize that if we pool the money, we can get a better share for both of us. So we're going to go out there and I'm going to try to smash his face in, but I want him to be able to go home with a decent pay, and I want, if I lose, to go home with a decent pay.
I wonder how people would react to that. It would be kind of cool if you're like, look, if you're just like, we're talking about this. Like, look, me and this guy go every day. We don't want to split the camps up. We don't want to split the team up. We don't want to make, like, everybody uncomfortable and all that. So we've just decided we worked our ass off here. We won our regular season fights. We won our semifinal fight. We're here. And just so that it's not uncomfortable for anybody, we've agreed we're gonna split this 50-50. I wonder how the public would react to that.
I mean, I'm sure they would assume that something could happen. I mean, it would be a really poor form if everybody believes the story and then fight night you guys both out there and do like a Rocky Apollo first punch, boom, and you just like, you good? You good? They both drop to the ground, or something. But
that would be bad. Like Shoeface just got a 29-second submission last time. If he got a 29-second submission and everybody knew it was public, they'd be like,
I mean, but that's the kind of thing. If the fight happens and you're seeing it, people will tell people. I mean, regardless of what most people think about MMA fans and how fickle they could be, MMA fans read through bullshit really quickly. If you're watching the fight, you're going to tell when somebody's pulling their punches. You're going to tell when somebody's not fighting somebody or not finishing somebody. The fighters would hear that, and then but that's the kind of thing that I would think would ruin the career. If you're going to try to sell us on a wonderful PR story, you got to live up to the fight, because if not, I don't want to see you again.
Crazy.
But I'm not opposed to it, but I can see where more people think that means that they're trying to finagle the system, because if you take the pure competition out of trying to get the bigger amount of money, because everybody's going to be fighting harder to try to get the bigger amount. If you take that away, is it hard for people to believe that you're still going to go in giving 100%, knowing that there's a participation trophy?
Yes, 100%. So, yeah, terrible idea. But it just came to my mind. But I did find it intriguing that they're both gunning for this $1 million. They're like, we still go together.
I mean, how many times do we hear when people are like, even we've heard people say, even if it was like a belt, though, like, I'll leave the division, I'll go whatever. I'm not going to fight my boy. Then as the years went on, we started hearing people say, well, that I'd hate to think of it, but, if it's for a belt, then maybe I would. Now we're actually seeing that possibility here. It just depends, man. It just depends on friendship. But, when your family, especially when you have a family, you know what it's like to have to provide. And if you have the possibility of giving a larger amount of money to your family, it's like, I like your family, bro, but I got to live with my wife and my kids over here.
Yeah, that's a single man's decision. That's not a married man's decision. The wife is like, you did what?
I didn't say you could take half my money and give it to somebody else.
Didn't say that at all. Too funny. All right, the UFC is in Austin on Saturday. I think this is a phenomenal card, if I'm being honest with you, man. I think very, very entertaining fights from top to bottom. Calvin Kattar versus Josh Emmett. Man, it really, really intrigues me. Was doing a breakdown earlier for this for Sports Illustrated, and it's just,
you mean the new home for Chris Perrone?
The new home for Chris Perrone, man. My favorite guy at USA Today is now part of Sports Illustrated.
Nice hire for show.
Man, it's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, Chris Perrone was in charge of our acquisition at MMA Junkie. I mean, that's how long he goes back at Gannett, and honestly, man, and I'm not just saying this. I mean, anybody that knows behind the scenes, I honestly, an absolute, just a great human being, and honestly my favorite person at that entire company, and a guy that I sought advice from sometimes and sought guidance from even after he wasn't really in charge of it anymore. So to see that he came over to Sports Illustrated, which I don't work directly for Sports Illustrated, but obviously we have partnerships with them. Very, very, very exciting. So
that's very cool.
I was really happy for that. I feel like the world works in mysterious ways sometimes, and I think that could open some cool doors for us moving forward.
Yeah.
But was doing a breakdown for them, and I'll say this, man. I think if you look at the stats, both these guys, more than 90% of their fight time is on their feet. No surprise there. We know they both like to bang. Calvin Kattar, you think of a traditional boxer. Josh Emmett, you think of a guy that, a boxer, but a dude that just loads up on power and can drop you. I ended up saying that I do think Calvin Kattar is the proper favorite here. I just think that his experience in long fights, his chin, his reach, his volume, all those bode well for him. Not that Josh Emmett can't catch him. He can.
Yep.
I do wonder, and I was saying that maybe you'd want to look at some live betting options. I wonder if Josh Emmett might try to switch it up a little bit and maybe try to turn this into a wrestling match. Maybe try to turn this into a bit of a grappling match. I know he's got that heavy hands and likes to land big shots, but I do wonder if he goes in with that game plan, if it might serve him well.
I think it has to be on the table at this point. I mean, I think he's going to get pushed to, if not the hardest that he's ever been pushed, and he's going to have to be able to use all weapons. Oddly enough, as you bring it up, everybody for most part at the MMA Junkie staff leaned on Calvin Kattar with good reason, but I did not.
Really? You went Josh Emmett?
I went Josh Emmett.
Look, dude, he's got the power to get it done.
He's got the power, and I think that's what I leaned on was just his durability and his toughness and his ability to catch him, and I think just that power that seems for him to stay the whole entire fight. But yes, having also that ability to get the wrestling and just be able to do that sort of stuff. I mean, granted, Calvin Kattar has lots and lots of weapons. Very, very dangerous, and it's probably a stupid pick, but I just remember after one of the last Josh Emmett fights, I was like, man, why do I pick against this guy? He always surprises me. Comes from a great team, and he's got an engine for days. Not that Kattar doesn't, but I don't know. It just for me, normally I think if I would have picked this a year ago, Kattar would have been a no-brainer for me.
Right.
But I just feel like something just felt different about this one, so yeah, I went with Emmett, and maybe it's partially because I was watching so many of our fellow staff just be like, "Oh, Kattar." I was like, dude, everybody's just writing him off.
Yeah.
And I didn't want. Part of it in my head, I was like, when I see the staff picks all land on the page, I don't want it to just be one-sided. And then if something happened, everybody's like, Junkie's stupid, blah blah blah.
But
I was
took
like,
one for the team.
I did, but I feel good about this one.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like it was like a stupid play either. It definitely felt like if there was one to pick on this one where maybe I didn't pick the traditional guy that everybody else is going to be saying, I thought it was this one. And I don't feel bad about this pick at all.
He's got power in his hands, and if he can be a little creative. So I'm looking forward to that one. Cowboy versus Joe Lowe's on, of course, the rescheduled fight. A clean-shaven Cowboy Cerrone, by the way. The beard is gone.
I had a double take. And when I looked, I was like, who's this cat? And until I saw the giant dip in his mouth, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's Cowboy. That's Cowboy.
I, of course, am picking Cowboy in this fight because I am an unabashed Cowboy homer.
Yeah.
Definitely my guy. In the same way that I always pick Andre Arlovsky, I'm always going to pick Cowboy. So never look to me for unbiased recommendations in a Cowboy fight. I know it's
you would never live it down on Arlovsky. If you didn't pick Arlovsky and you came in there,
he'd let me know.
He would probably just mean mug you and then just be like, "What happened?
Yep.
Did I make you mad? Or are we gonna fight?
So true.
What did I do, John?"
So true. I hope this isn't his last fight. I know he told us in Phoenix last time when he was supposed to fight that he liked the idea of maybe getting one more because I believe that would be his 50th fight under the Zuffa banner.
They talked about it today in the thing. He said he was wrong in his count. He would need 2 more after this one, but he does want to stick with the idea of 50.
Of getting to 50.
If he gets the win, he wants to try to go for 50.
Wow. All right, cool. So we
but
got
that would be
more.
2 more. That would be this one and then 2 more.
I didn't want to not be at Cowboys' retirement fight in Texas, so that would
have been real bad.
That would have been bad. So I'm glad to hear that. But look, man, the matchups keep going. Kevin Holland versus Tim Means. I mean,
that's a good fight.
Tell me who you're picking in that one. That's a tough one to pick right there, man.
I picked Holland.
Did you?
I don't know, man.
Tim Means so dirty and grimy, though.
And Tim's just so methodical, man. I love the way he was chatting in the media day today. He's like, I know Kevin's going to talk. He's like, when he talks, he messes up. He gets off balance and he does shit. He's like, my plan is to get him talking. He wants to get him talking, doing whatever. And Tim pulls stuff out, man. I just know that Kevin Holland is so dangerous and he's so talented. We've just seen him falter when he finally gets at the precipice of like, bro, win this, you're gonna get the title shot.
Right.
Win this. This is not that fight, and I feel like this is one of those fights that he seems to do well, and he thrives. He understands that this is the kind of fight he needs to win if he wants his career to advance, and it doesn't have the pressure of carrying the fight week, having to do all the extra media. This should be the fight that he thrives in. He says he's been working a solid year of wrestling. I mean, he's saying all the right things. I mean, if he can let his head not get out of the fight, if he can not let the dirty bird kind of take it over and get him out of his head, I think he has all the talent in the world to push Tim to the brink. I mean, but Tim's so darn tough. I mean, like, to think that this is going to end in a quick knockout or even like a quick submission, I don't see that happening. I think both these guys are talented enough to do it,
Yep.
but they're just both so darn tough. I mean, more than likely this is going to be a decision, and it'd be cool if it was like a close one because the action's so good. But both of them have the capability of making a good unanimous decision. Definitely a one-sided fight, but it should be good. But yeah, I lean toward Holland, but I was a little.
It's hard to pick against
Tim
Means, though, right?
It's a hard pick.
It's hard to pick against
It's
Tim
a really
Means.
hard pick.
That's a good one. Joaquin Buckley, Albert Drive, Julian Marquez versus Gregory Rodriguez could be great. I'm skipping over one. I love this fight so much. Damir Ismagulov versus Guram Kutateladze. I love this fight so much, and I think both these guys are phenomenal. I love seeing this matchup, but I feel like it's a weird one, right? Because I feel like these are two dudes that are incredibly unknown and underrated and have these phenomenal career records and phenomenal abilities, and their style is fun. But I feel like one of them is going to win, and it's not going to mean anything because they're both kind of unknown and underrated. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel like both these guys need names so people can go. It's hard, I think, sometimes for the casual audience to latch on to these foreign guys that they don't really know. And so I don't know, pairing them up against each other. Not that I'm saying like, oh, foreign dudes shouldn't be fighting each other, but these two specifically, I love the fight and I hate the fight at the same time because I feel like somebody's not going to get the rub that they deserve off of it, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and these are kind of names. It's funny, I look, I'm like, they're names that don't really stand out as like, I was like, man, I feel like I should know this guy's better. I was like, oh, maybe he's only fought a couple times. And you look at like Damir's Ismagulov's like record, and he's got 1, 2, 3, 4. This be this 5th UFC fight. Like, bro, why don't I know this name as much?
You're not alone, and a lot of people don't know who the guy is.
Some of those fights were overseas, but then I'm like, oh, well, that fight was at the Apex, and I was like, oh, why don't I know this?
I know, I'm telling you. So I'm a little bummed about that. I love the matchmaking, and I'm bummed about it as well. But, dude, listen, man, this thing keeps going. Kyle Dawkins versus Roman Dolidze. That should be a great fight.
That should be a good one.
Stylistically, those are great matchups. And, of course, Kyle Dawkins, I got some CFFC love. Phil Hawes versus Deron Wynn is going to be
a really good
visually weird to see, but I cannot wait. It could be fun. Jasmine Jasudavicius, another CFFC vet, taking on the newcomer Natalia Silva. Then you keep going. Court McGee versus Jeremiah Wells, another CFFC vet right there. I just need to point out CFFC is rolling heavy on this card. Tony Kelly versus Adrian Yanez. Of course, that one has taken on a meaning with the Brazilian crowd backing Adrian Yanez and Gilbert Burns telling me like he seriously has like worked with a coalition of Brazilians to give Yanez a bonus money if he knocks out Tony Kelly. He's like, I've been in contact with him. Like, we got some Brazilians that want to like put some money together and give him a bonus if he scores a knockout. Of course, Tony Kelly, you remember the comments that were made in the corner.
What do you say? Dirty fucking Brazilian?
Dirty Brazilian cheating. That's what they
Brazilian,
do or whatever.
I will say that for those of you that are very astute, like our listeners are, if you're looking at the media day today, and wondering why Tony Kelly was not there. Media was told that he was not going to arrive in time, but certain media have already informed us that they saw him walking around during the middle of media day, so he would have been plenty able to make media day at some point, but through some particular reason, who knows, he was not able to attend media day. So for some of you that were hoping to hear some answers to questions, hard questions that I'm sure would have presented themselves today, that opportunity did not, whether that was the UFC accepting him when he said, hey, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, just
I'm sure they went to him.
I'm sure he's like, I don't want to.
UFC's been pretty good lately about letting guys sort of own up to their shit when they say stuff. There was a point in time where they always would never put those people, and they kind of hit them more. But now lately, when they've just been bringing the whole main card and to a thing, now it's on them. They just sort of think, well, you got to go,
Yeah, I think the only the only one I remember in recent times, maybe you remember another one, is Cowboy. Actually, at the last one, they were just like, hey, Cowboy's he's just not going to answer any questions about retirement, so just heads up. You know what I mean? And I was like, that's fine. You know what I mean?
He still came.
He still showed up, but they and again,
and he still sort of worked its way in. It's still regardless.
Yeah. And I was going to say, and the truth is, just because PR says that doesn't mean that you can't still ask him about it. You absolutely can.
Yep.
He's there for media, but if he's told you he's not going to answer the question, then what's the point? It's not to bring up like Colby, but like the next time Colby shows up, I'm not going to ask him any questions.
Right.
Like you've made it clear you're not answering my questions. That would be stupid. Same thing. If he's made it clear I'm not going to answer retirement, why would you ask him a retirement question?
I mean, it's like we'll playfully call it like the Dana defense. When Dana doesn't want to answer questions, just Dana does not show up, and it's the same sort of deal. I mean, he was slated to be on there. If they thought that they knew when they put the schedule out, those comments had already happened.
Of course.
So they still thought at one point, hey, it was still fine to have him on the thing.
Yep.
I guarantee he probably went to them and said, I have nothing to say. They're just going to ask me about stupid shit.
So I'm out.
Blah, blah, blah. I'm out,
Yeah, we don't know this for sure, but
it's just speculation.
Pretty fair speculation.
Yeah, I mean, like, I wouldn't say that if I did some dumb shit that I had to go do something that was going to put me public facing, that I would probably try to get out of it as well.
Right.
You want to get to fight week, you want to just get ready. You're going to do it, and that's just for anything. I'm speaking like, when I get to fight week. Any obligation, when you're obligated to go to a place, you just want to get there and get it done. He knows that he was having to do that. That's part of the one thing that they do. These fighters don't do, especially for some of the smaller events and other stuff, they don't get the possibility of doing press for the event to help sell the event. So this is the one opportunity where the UFC says, hey, come tell your story. Come pitch to people to watch your fight. And if you're choosing to not do it, it's either because, one, you're just like, I don't need to, I don't care, or I really don't want to answer questions that I'm uncomfortable about.
But you know what's funny is that, like, it just seems like it's so easy to just show up, answer the question, and be like, look, I didn't mean to be racist. I'm sorry. Like, I was emotional. I messed up.
Yeah.
I won't do it again. I've learned. It was my fault. I don't feel that way, and I apologize. Like, is that like,
or just go all in? Like, it wasn't a racist comment. You're all stupid, broke motherfuckers. Like, get off my back. I mean, let's realize. I mean, Tuesday, the day before Tuesdays, always for the UFC is arrival day, medicals, sign your posters, get all that shit done.
Right.
Why couldn't he have been there? What possible transit problems or anything could have prevented him from getting from the hotel, which is probably where this was, to get down to the room?
They're like, he's over there. You can see him right down the hall, but he won't make it here in time. You see, he's over there.
There's like a tsunami or something in between or something, but whatever. I mean, obviously it was definitely a joint thing, but I know some of you that are very astute are going to be like, oh, man, I wanted to see what he's saying, but he did not show. Well, whatever. Through whatever, he wasn't there. So if you're looking for interviews,
he wasn't available.
For
whatever reason.
All
right, well, listen, I can run Cody Stamen versus Eddie Wineland on the early prelims, man. I love that. So I think this is going to be a fun card. I'll be tuned in. By the way,
I did want to, before we switch, I was going to get your thoughts. And this is another person, because we talking about BKFC and where everything fits perfectly. He didn't have a good first run in his first PFL, but what do you think about Jeremy Stevens getting another go? He's going to be at this PFL 4 as well.
Yeah, I love it. Honestly, man, I was at that last fight with Clay Collard, and the fight was super fun. And Jeremy was in such good spirits, man, where he
Collard's
was just
a stud.
Collard's a stud. He really is a stud. So I'm happy to see Jeremy Stevens back. I don't know if he's going to end up being able to get into the playoffs or not after the first loss, but just being around him, man, he's in such a better place than he has been.
That's awesome.
He just seemed happier. Obviously he's sober and all that, but just, he always kind of had a chip on his shoulder before, and I think he's admitted it. The chip's gone. I mean, now he's fine talking to the media. He's in a good mood, good spirits. I haven't seen him this week, but I could tell you in Texas in his first, and I was just like, man, who is this guy? Like, this is a different guy. This is a guy that hated us before, and now he's here and he's in good spirits. I love to see that.
Yeah, and I'm glad that he's found, and whether BKFC could be another option after this, I'm glad that he feels that he's at a place that he feels wanted and that he's thriving. Like you said, if he's coming in looking happy, whatever. It's another guy that's given us a lot of good years of just blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, you want him to be able to kind of find a home and be able to kind of do what he does.
But when you're walking around with that anger all the time, that's just unsustainable. You know what I mean? So it's good to see him get past that.
Yeah, fuck, the anger that literally who is it that he fucking pushed that still to this day says that he has
Close.
Yeah, Close says he still feels ramifications
that's
from
crazy,
his neck.
Man. Such a freak accident.
But that's that fucking bottled up anger.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that whole stuff that Jeremy was carrying around, with him at every fight. Part of what made him fight the way that he did with that energy. But regardless, if he has anger in his heart or not,
off, though. You got to be able to turn it off.
I was gonna say he's gonna be bringing a lot of that heat still when it gets in there. But if he feels that life is in a good spot for him, I mean, he's gonna come in there and put some good stuff, man. But yeah, but that was another one when I saw that earlier. I feel like we have to give him props too of a guy that's hopefully being able to kind of extend his career, let it keep going, but maybe possibly have a resurgence in another organization.
I love it. Like you said, opportunities for fighters. I'm going to be watching these shows. I'm going to get to feel the pain of the European fan. I am actually flying tomorrow morning to Brussels.
Watch out for that monkeypox.
Just don't say that. Please don't say. I will admit, one of the reasons I was kind of worried about, and I ultimately decided not to go to Singapore, and we talked about like how far it is.
They all got the monkeypox.
And that's a big part of it. Well, the monkeypox wasn't it, but like I was really kind of thought, especially over there, man, I just feel like the rules change like really quickly.
Yeah.
And I was really afraid that like, man, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to end up testing positive. I'm going to get stuck in Singapore for 2 weeks where I wouldn't be on the UFC's dime. I'd be on my own dime, you know what I mean? And it would be terribly expensive. So that honestly really did factor into my decision of not going over to Singapore. But the U.S. just removed all that, so just in time for my trip to Brussels. So even if I do get COVID while I'm over there, I won't get stuck over there, which is a nice relief. So I'm excited about that. But I'll be there in attendance at Bushido 84 in Brussels. So that's on an online pay-per-view, I believe. So if anybody wants to tune into that, but I'm gonna be watching that. But that is Sunday night, and I'm looking forward to being there. It's an all VIP show, so I'm excited to see how it all plays out. And I appreciate them inviting me over there, but I'm going to get to feel the pain of the European fan because I believe, if my calculations are right, the UFC card will kick off at 10 p.m. Saturday night and wrap up around 4 p.m. or 4 a.m. I should say Sunday morning, at which part I then need to do an 1.5 episode. So yeah. We'll see how the timing works on that. I might need a little nap or something before. We'll see how that works out. I know anybody from Europe right now is listening to me going, because this is actually a relatively early time. So I know anybody in Europe right now is saying, oh, suck it up, you pansy. But so I'll be feeling your pain over there. So if anybody happens to be in Brussels, come catch a frosty beverage with me. I'm looking forward to a little Belgian beer. I think I might be able to find a decent frosty beverage in Brussels. So
yeah, I think you could find a few.
I'm looking forward to it. So that's my weekend. Yeah. You'll be helping out, just doing a little remote coverage from.
I'm the remote man.
Remote editor.
Yeah, which is fun. Whatever.
I love it. And then
I do like being home.
It is nice being home. And then back in the Apex next week, and then after that, International Fight Week, and then just it's getting busy and busy. I love it. Then got to get CFFC going again. We got 2 events in July, and 2 different events in July.
Contender Series is right around the corner as well.
Contender Series about to get going
2
again.
weeks. 2 weeks. About to start popping off.
I'm loving it. Let's go. Let's get the schedule going, man. I can't wait. All right, listen. Safe travels to myself.
Yeah, safe travels. Did you find you some Xanax or something for the flight?
Yeah. Oh man, I've been taking. I started ordering from Direct Hemp. This
little CBD pill or
little
something?
CBD melatonin combo.
Nice.
I can't, Charlotte's Web, I think it's called. They're not paying me, but I'm gonna go ahead and mention it anyway because honestly. It helps me sleep very, very well.
It's got a little THC in there?
It doesn't. So it's not even psychoactive. It just man, I take
even some of the ones they're so low level that you're not gonna like get off on it, but it just adds a little something.
Yeah, I know. I thought about that. I was like, we'll just try this one, but it's good. It works out really well for me. So I'll probably take a couple of those. Maybe have a little vodka drink on there, something. A little whiskey drink, a little vodka drink.
You mean one at a time or 2 of them at a time?
2 at a time. 2 at a time. Man, can I get 2 of those, please? Get 2 of those.
Can you make 2 doubles, please?
Stop with your judgment. Just pour the drinks. Just hand me the little mini bottles and be on your way. Thank you.
Can you park the little mini bar right here?
I'll deal with the judgment a while. All right. Anyway, that's all that's going on. Busy schedule coming up. We'll have you covered. Thanks for listening.